What does it mean to compassionately care for someone? Hi, I'm Dr. Dan Merwicks, and welcome to the Light of Liberty, the Easter week edition, as we go through the 7 last sayings of Christ. The third saying today helps us to understand the depth of compassion while it's in the midst of the most intense moments of pain. In John chapter 19, verses 23 through 27, Jesus is now on the cross. In verse 25, a little bit earlier, we see Mary, his mother, now standing and looking at her son. Imagining everything that's probably going through her mind, even as a parent, I can't even begin to imagine the intensity of the emotions and the hurt and the sorrow and the grief that was going through her mind. Probably at that moment, realizing and thinking back about what Simeon had said in Luke chapter 2 in verses 34 through 35, when he said this child is destined for a fall and rise of many in Israel. Yes, even a sword will pierce your soul as well. I imagine she felt the cutting blade of intense grief and sorrow as it was starting to go through. Yet even in the intensity of all that was happening, Jesus looked down at her and said these words to her, "Woman, behold your son." Now, she wasn't simply directed to look at him because that's all she had been staring at. Who was he directing her to look at? He was directing her to look at John. John, the beloved, was right next to Mary. And he was making sure that his mom, his earthly mom, was not only honored, but that she would be taken care of. Why? Because that is the duty and responsibility of the firstborn. And he is saying, "Mom, John's going to take care of you. Son, behold your mother. John, this is now your mom. You take care of her." Earlier, Jesus had just washed the feet of the disciples. He began to teach them what it means to compassionately serve the people who are around them and to care for them. And likewise, even in our own spiritual relationships with God, the most important relationship that we will ever have, God says, I do not ever want you to neglect the physical relationships of those who are around you, that you need to compassionately care for them as I cared for you. Matter of fact, in Matthew chapter 22, verse 39, earlier it says, how do we love God? Love Him with all our heart and our mind and our body and our strength, the totality of who we are. But then He says this, and now love your neighbor as yourself. That's the second greatest commandment. How do we compassionately care? Sometimes we approach it with kindness, but kindness is this. Kindness says, I will extend a hand when you are in need. Compassionately caring simply says, I will walk with you through the darkness of the moment. Who are you walking with through the darkness of these moments of panic and a paralysis in our country? Because they need someone who will compassionately care and love them enough to walk with them. Why? Because you have someone that always walks with you. A God that says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And if God is always with us, and we are now with others in their time of need, how great of a compassion is felt and seen at that moment. Thank you for joining me today on the Light of Liberty. And join me tomorrow as we continue in this journey of the 7 last sayings of Christ and the words that represent that rock of the world. But remember this as you leave. For them that have been set free by the Lord Jesus Christ, to him who has been set free is free indeed. Now that's a life that you can live and love and compassionately serve for all eternity. God bless you. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.